and gentlemen, introducing the Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of NXP, Lars Reger, NXP. Lars Reger.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Big thanks for having me here. Big thanks for truly special moment. Truly special being here in Taiwan with all of you. Being here in Taiwan with all of you, and to take the next hour to take you on a journey. To take you on a journey towards a brighter future, towards a brighter future journey. And of course, a journey throughout the semiconductor industry. With all of that, let me start with my. I joined NXP 16 years ago. I joined NXP 16 years ago. In 2008. To tell you very frankly, and I thought, to tell you very frankly, by that I thought that I made the mistake of my life, career-wise. That I made the mistake. I joined the company in 2008. I joined the company in 2008 that was fully hit just by the spun out of Philips Semiconductors. Just spun out of Philips. Searching a little bit for the identity. So searching a little bit for the identity. Who are we? I called my wife. I still recall. And I called my wife. I still recall. Mid of the year and said, "Darling, stop packing the bags. I'll be back soon. This thing is going sideways. I'll be back soon. This thing is going sideways here." You hear it in my voice. You hear it in my voice to be now proud I am as the CTO, now standing chief nerd of a company that has 35,000 employees, that has 35,000 12,000 engineers, is sparkling from innovation, is sparkling from innovation, present in 30 countries, very strongly amongst others, also very strongly, and here in Taiwan, of course, what is making me even more proud is that 2 weeks ago is before the first 2 weeks ago hit a company valuation of $70 billion valuations of $70 billion. And these $70 billion, I'm telling you, not to brag about the number. No, not to brag about the number. Analyst evaluation. What is an analyst evaluation? An analyst evaluation forecast is basically a what can this company potential, what can this company in the future, what can this company generate, what can this company generate, how can this company help drive this company to a brighter future, drive this world to a brighter future. And this is of course what fills me with pride. And this is of course what fills me with pride if others are seeing this. This is a great story for NXP. This is a great story for NXP over the last 16 years. A story. It is not a story of it is not a story of NXP standalone. This is a story of an ecosystem. This is a story of strong ecosystem partners, and I see a couple of familiar faces here. And I see a couple of familiar faces here in the first row. Very strong ecosystem partners that are very strong here in Taiwan, especially. I know exactly we are standing on many of your shoulders. Standing on many of your shoulders. You are supplying us as you partner with us. You are supplying us as you are our customers, or as you help our customers working, and as you help us working. So big thanks for all of that partnership. So big thanks for all of that partnership. Years in that industry, to the next years in that industry, and I'm also strongly need that partnership. And I'm only here at Computex. That I'm not only here at Computex. I'm also here, but for Innovex. I'm also here the startup Innovex convention. So this running startup parallel convention that is running with 400 startups from 100 nations. 400 startups from 100 nations. Try to do is of course also what we try to do is of course we try to breed unicorns. The next big companies, so in other words, over the next 1-2 decades going forward, over the next 1-2 decades going forward, as our suppliers, we need them as our suppliers, our partners. Again, maybe they have interesting our partners. Again, maybe they have guys like us, technology that is relevant, or for guys like us, if they are big, or if they are, of course, growing in the way, if like we want it, then ideally they are our customers. Then ideally they are our customers. So there is a reason. There is a reason why we have coined. There is a reason why we have coined brighter together. NXP brighter all together. Of us. It is all of us. It is an ecosystem. And you. It is an ecosystem. What can this ecosystem do? And what can this ecosystem do? Well, going forward, we can try to make this planet. We can try to make this planet a better world. And the world ahead, for sure, and the world ahead. You have seen a lot of keynotes in the last days. You have seen a lot of keynotes in the last days. Everyone is forecasting. There is disruptive. The only funny thing is. The innovation drivers are not that much changing. I had one slide that I used already in 2008, and that is behind you. Yes, our marketing teams have. Yes, our marketing teams have. But the innovation trends, the drivers here on that slide are unchanged. The drivers here on that slide are unchanged. Since 2008. It was clear that we will get a climate change. It was clear that we will get a climate change. It was clear that we are facing shortages. It was clear that we have aging demographics, that more people want to live in megacities, that everyone wants to be connected in the world. That everyone wants to be connected in the world. Mind you, 2008 was the year of the smartphone, but everyone was already there to be connected. Everyone wanted to live in a safe and secure world. In a safe and secure world. That is all unchanged. That is all, and it is good unchanged, that we have these innovation drivers, that we have these innovation drivers to all of these problems, bring solutions to all of these problems. If I can solve your problems, if I can solve money your problems, you will give me money. This is unchanged in the last 10,000 years. In the last 10,000 years. So for all of us, this is ample of opportunity. So for all of us, this is ample of opportunity into areas to go goods into areas of goods, people healing. It is healing that we are doing. It is work the infrastructure around us, the infrastructure around us, how we live, moved, how we moved that. So it is all a nice foundation for continued business success. Continued business and business success. How is that going to look like? Is that going to look like? Let me try to jump with you. Try a little bit to jump with you. I'm a little bit. How on a journey into the year 2050. On a journey. So Lars is getting a little bit older. So Lars is getting a little bit older. Of 2050. Lars has an age already of 80 years. The key question, of course, that is bugging me is. The key question, of course, that is bugging me is. What is the world looking like in 2050? What is the world looking like in 2050? Of course, I don't have a glass bowl. If I would know the details, I would be rich already today, and I would be rich already today, and would retire tomorrow. An assumption, of course, it's just that I try to bring to you, of course, and I try to take you on that journey, so that we can dream. To take you on that journey, so that we can dream together. If we can dream it, because we can build it. If we can dream it, we can build it. What we will see is very likely. Couple of core assumptions. Very likely. We will see an economic power shift. We will see an economic power shift. Populations. So the big populations. Emerging countries. Today, China, emerging countries. Lot of Asian countries. India. Lot of Asian populations, emerging countries. These big populations, emerging countries are by 2050. Lot of wealth by 2050. In those economies. Lot of wealth. So that is all economies. So that is all economic power shift. Of course, economic power shift. One other thing that is different to our thinking today. Different the world population today. The world population, its peak point, is already past its peak point. The population is declining. Energy supply, energy transition supply is likely behind us. Is likely behind us. Using mainly renewable energy sources, mainly renewable energy, decentralized but well networked, decentralized but well around us. And this is all stable energy supply grid. Stable energy pollution supply grid, exhaust gas and so on. Exhaust gas and so on. We will see that is no by then that we will mobility by then. It's very likely very differently. It's very likely very differently. Mobility will be mobility safe. Will be efficient. Safe. Efficient type of vehicles, different form factors, different type of vehicles, different form factors, very different means of transportation, and the biggest shift of transportation, and the biggest shift that will touch all of us, that will touch all of our jobs, is our jobs. I will be retired, so I will be retired. I will not care that much about it anymore. I will not care that much about it anymore. But the jobs, the menial tasks, the simple jobs have disappeared. The simple completely robot have disappeared. They are completely robot. The ones of you who are still working in 2050, the ones of you who are still working in 2050, caring jobs, will mainly work where the human component is the value component is, or in the value operated jobs, or in basically observing, or being in control centers, mission control centers, or in other words. Or in other words, potential in the next 25 years, potential in the next 25 years, change these ecosystems, to completely change these ecosystems, to completely transition into that world that anticipates and automates. What you will take for granted in 2050 is that you don't care for your house anymore. Your house is completely Your house is completely. Your house knows how you are doing. Your house knows how you are doing. Your house knows when maintenance. When it needs to do. Not only sending out the lawn mowing robot. Not only sending out the lawn mowing robot. I mean, that is. But your house is completely climatizing. But your house is completely climatizing. It is like our old descriptions of paradise. It is like our old descriptions of paradise. There's always food. Yeah. Always warm. There's always food. Everything always warm and barrier-free. Seamless. So if you are moving in your house, you don't know the concept of door locks anymore. You don't know the concept of door locks anymore. You are moving, and because doors are always open, but only for you. Doors are always open, but only for you. They are completely shielded. They are completely shielded. This seamless experience. And this is the seamless experience. When I talk about the world that anticipates mobility. Mobility. We have lived now for 150 years on horse carriages with a combustion engine. So in other words, the concept of the horse carriage has not changed. There's always a coachman in front operating the horses, driving the steering wheel. Forget it. This is not what our kids will think of when they think of driving in 2050. The driving task is completely automated. But these cars, these transport capsules, maybe driving, flying, or being on the rails, these transport capsules have become convenience spaces. Like already today, in some Asian markets already, we see this. People are leaving the flat where the kids are playing in a noisy way, go to the cars, have a convenient space to watch a video or take a phone call. In some Asian markets already. So this will be a totally different concept. Leaving the flat where the kids are playing in a noisy way, go to the cars, have a convenient space to watch a video or take a phone call. You have a new app, you have a new feature. This will be a totally different concept. Maybe you're changing your real estate a little bit, bigger display or whatsoever. These convenience spaces are upgrading themselves. And also a concept. You have a new app, you have a new feature, maybe you're changing your real estate a little bit, bigger display or whatsoever. Just think of some of the mega cities. Upgradable systems. 500 meters outside of the building here. Also a concept. How many traffic jams do we have get rid of by 2050? Because there is traffic transport. In some of the cities, just think of all the roads. Because there is goods transport. If you can in some of the cities, there is pizza delivery, parcel delivery, all of these type of things that are happening in the off-peak hours at night, and definitely not in the rush hour. And you can automate totally seamless that entire world. Yeah, then these type of things are of course happening in the off-peak hours at night, definitely not in the rush hour. Factories will be clean, and you have and automate totally seamless traffic flow. And there is only maintenance workers in the factories. How are our factories workers that come to repair or to upgrade a manufacturing robot? There will not be normal operation workers in the factories anymore. These operation workers that come are outside in a mission control center, upgrade, are sitting in front of 2 or 3 screens. There will not. They don't wear the blue operation workers in the factories shirts. These operation workers, but they are sitting there outside in a mission control center, observers, and only sitting in front of 2 or 3 something goes wrong that the robots cannot handle. Wear the blue color. All the rest is automated shirts anymore. But they are sitting and there. And I see the first faces here in the audience. Observers, and only interact if something goes wrong I don't know. That the robots cannot handle. This here, what I have here on the slide is not a dream. This is happening. And I see the first faces here in the audience saying, should I believe him? I tell you where I have seen it. I don't know. I've seen it here. This here in Taiwan. What I have here on the slide is not a dream. This is what this is happening. Is already and I have seen it. If you are looking and I tell you where TSMC's most modern fabs, I've seen it here. What you see is a lot of maintenance workers in the clean room, highly automated systems, if you are looking into TSMC's most modern fabs and the mission control center, is a lot of maintenance workers in the clean room and TSMC's highly automated systems companies in the world because these semiconductor factories are so capital intense and so heavy to invest in outside of the clean room. Far advanced and TSMC's maybe one of the taking place companies in the world because these semiconductor factories are so capital intense and so heavy to invest in that I told you this far advanced to the year 2050 are taking place. And for let me quickly introduce you to another member of the Rega family. This is Kira. Now, my then 16-year-old granddaughter to the year 2050, and Kira is going to ask all sorts of questions to Grandpa of the Rega family. This is Kira, Grandpa Lars, my then 16-year-old granddaughter. Grandma has said Kira is going to ask all sorts of questions. How was your career in this industry? And let me, how do you call it, semiconductor industry, Grandpa? Grandpa, yes, Kira, I can tell you, involved. Over the last 40 years, transformation of the industry of the world developed to digital twins. And let me give you the story. Then, Grandpa was actively involved in the transformation of the industry of the world, the digital twins. And Kira's then interesting great robot. What does this exactly mean? Well, Kira, let me tell you. When I was a young engineer, system brain shift. We in the semiconductor industry, computer chips, interesting headlines, Grandpa, but on pretty boring. What does this exactly mean? Well, Kira, let me tell you. On laptops. When I was a young engineer, Kira, that is we in the semiconductor industry, computer chips. Kira, there had been even desktops. Pretty boring. Can you imagine? Desktops was a different word for a computer so bulky and heavy that you could not carry it. Portable computers. Unthinkable today in 2050. There had been even desktops. So can you imagine telephones? Desktops was a different word for a computer so bulky and heavy that you could not carry it. Concept than in 2050. Unthinkable today in 2050, of course. We had the first portable telephones. We had separate computers for gaming. Then there came this different concept than in 2050. The green phase was audio, the on-demand world. That was so some smart engineer at the US West Coast. And then took Kira, there came this green phase. And the portable computer. The green phase stuffed it into on-demand world and called it a smartphone. So some smart engineer of our smartphones at the US West Coast. Smartphones were data display mobile phone. And the portable computer for the first time, Kira, we had to each other big storage and big compute in the cloud. Proud of our smartphones. And this big storage and big data display devices. And we had for the first time, Kira, to create an on-demand big storage and big compute in the cloud. Whenever someone, and this big storage and big compute and this data display press a button on your mobile phone, and the taxi would come. Whenever someone wanted to have food, you could order it on your phone, and whenever Grandpa wanted to switch on the auxiliary heating in his car, mobile phone, he could press a button would come. Whenever someone wanted to have food, you could order it on your phone, and whenever Grandpa wanted to switch on the auxiliary heating in his car, human beings, he could press a button and the heating would switch on. So in other words, Kira, this on-demand world is a world so 30 years remote control. Only in the early 2020s, human beings had because that was the transition where we moved into the robotics age. We took all the machines, so that we had to operate manually, only in the early 2020s into robots. Because that was the transition where we moved into the robotics age. For that, we took all the machines that we had to operate manually and moved them into digital twins. Robots. And these digital twins were complete mappings, and for that, of me, in the cloud, so my state of health, my state of wealth, digital twins. My entire physical correct and these digital twins in the cloud. And what we also did, Kira, is we did this for everything around in the cloud. So my state of health, we did this for industrial manufacturing, my entire physical for healthcare, for hospitals, and what we also did for smart we did this homes, for everything around us. We developed smart homes. We did this for industrial and manufacturing. We did this for healthcare. And then we tried hospitals. We did this for smart homes. And that was the first step only by 2020. And Kira, we did this for cars. Having all of our stuff. And then we tried somewhere in the digital world all of these digital give us anything. There had been visionary guys. That was the first step. Maybe you still recall that old tool, Facebook. All of our stuff. Mark Zuckerberg invented it. And Mark Zuckerberg started talking about a concept. There had been visionary guys that he called metaverse. Jensen Huang, an AI evangelist of these times, he talked about digital twins and he called them omniverse. But seriously, without the next steps, these two gentlemen would only have been funny digital game developers. So, what do you need? Kira, what we were needing were all these smart connected devices, the tentacles of the omniverse and of the metaverse, the reach out into the analog world, the data transition from what is happening in the analog world, get it into the digital twins. The digital twins talk to each other, optimize each other, and bring that entire know-how back into the analog world and react there. So in other words, we had to wake up billions of robots around us. And then Kira looks and says, hey, Grandpa, really, all of these robots came from that idea? Well, Kira, similar concept. Yeah, but Grandpa, I mean, they all have so many different form factors, billions of different form factors, and you talk about one family of robots. Yes, Kira, because our concept that we had in mind was that all of these robots follow the same way how to be built. All of these robots were sensing their environment in the analog world. All of these robots were connected to the cloud and were getting data from there. All of these robots were computing an interesting thought. Then they were thinking. They were trying to anticipate what has to happen next. And then they were sending this concept to the arms and legs of these robots. So if we only would build sense, think, connect, act into our robots, we are done. Not entirely, because, Kira, you would only hand over tasks to a robot when you can trust that robot. And therefore, safety and security, or in normal people's language, trust has to land in the machines. So, Kira, we could enable these different robots only because we could master the sensing, thinking, connecting, and acting, and we could bring safety and security into these robots. And NXP tried since 30 years to be world champion in these 6 areas. And then what we tried to do is we tried to find scalable platforms to address all the different form factors of these robots in sense, think, connect, act, safety, and security. And this is how we could wake up all these robots. And Kira is looking at me, shining eyes, and they say, Grandpa, that's a great story, but weren't you a little bit slow? I said, what do you mean, Kira? Yeah, hey, Grandpa, I mean, you needed 30 years to wake up all these robots? Doesn't sound it went all that seamlessly, did it? I say, yeah, Kira, you hit a sore point, because not everything worked that well, especially in the beginning. We knew how to build acting machines. We had 150 years of engineering of machines under our belt. This is what we knew. The connectivity part we had solved in the 1990s and 2000s, largely. Also, not a big miracle. Where we made our mistakes, that was on the thinking part, and where we needed to catch up, that was on the sensing part. And Kira says, Grandpa, what are the mistakes that you made in the thinking? Well, Kira, let me briefly show you what happened in 2016. When people, for the first time, understood the power of AI and machine learning, everyone was freaking out. That was really the gold digger spirit, AI everywhere, where if you have a problem, AI will solve it for you. Everything is seamless, is easy, because AI is taking over the world. And the biggest newspapers by this time, 2016, were hammering out articles like, car industry is changing. In 4 years from now, most of the vehicles are autonomously driven. Journalists were asking me, hey Lars, when are your kids driving autonomously to the kindergarten in a car without a steering wheel? And 4 years later, the same newspapers were sending out articles like, the techies have overpromised and underdelivered, let's get sober, autonomous cars only come in a couple of decades, it's not all that easy, it's a mistake, doesn't work that way, so big depression in the market. 4 years. So we got it totally wrong in the first step. And Kira is asking, yeah, Grandpa, what was the reason? Well, Kira, we made a mistake. We thought it is enough that an AI system is just looking over our shoulder, is training how we drive. You hand over the key, and it's all good, and it's all easy how to continue. We should have known better, because also for your father, Kira, my son, Jonas, I could have worked and saved a lot of money if this concept would have been true. Because what I would have done at Jonas's 18th birthday, I would have said, Jonas, you are an intelligent system. You have seen now 18 years how Dad is driving. Here's the key to my sports car. Enjoy the day. This is precisely how it did not work. I spent tons of money for Jonas to make his driving license. He had to pass a deterministic driving test, theoretical and practical, test on the road, and only then he was allowed to drive. How come we came to the conclusion that an AI system doesn't need to pass a driving license and we just can throw over a key and say, yeah, you have seen how someone somehow drives, get going. There was a fundamental mistake in the overall setup because we did not put trust, safety, and security into the system. And we had to rework that entire ecosystem. So, Grandpa, how did you solve it? Well, Kira, this is what I earlier meant with a brain shift. The brain shift came in, or the need that we found, that we have to re-engineer the brains before we put them into robots, and that was quite a challenge. But what do techies normally do? We are looking around and say, okay, where exactly can we copy a solution and move it into the market? So how do we find blueprints for these robots, and how do we continue from there? Well, Kira, and the closest example, look at me. I'm an 80-year-old biological robot, and I have a very simple architecture. I have 3 parts of my robot brain. The orange part is my wiring harness, my data transformation network. And this data transformation network has reflexes. The responsibility for acting on reflexes is in the orange part. This is not an intelligent system, but it is ultra fast and ultra reliable. And if a robot stumbles here on stage, this reflex system just says, straighten your legs. Does not know what I fell over, but straighten your legs and stabilize yourself. The green part is decoupled from that, and it's in tech language a highly functional, safe system, real-time system. And that is caring for heartbeat, temperature control, stability control, complicated tasks in motions, all of these type of things. And I can operate all of these tasks while I'm standing on a stage talking to 1,000 people and thinking of the next sentence that the blue part, the non-real-time part, but the creative part should crank out. And you see it already here on that concept, Kira. The blue part is big and very energy hungry. But for transportation and motion, you largely need orange and green. And rule-based systems. Otherwise, insects could not move. So an ant is doing transportation tasks, and mosquito is not flying straight into the wall, only on orange and green. They don't have blue. They have simple trapping algorithms, and you can trap insects pretty easily because they can get stuck in simple algorithms and don't find enough creative solutions to climb out of a trap again. There you need the bluish part. But for us human beings, that bluish part is often needed for playing piano, for writing love letters, and for most of the robots, you need the capability to write love letters. You want functional, safe transportation. So in other words, the high magic of creating robots is largely in orange and in green. And of course, what we want to do is, we want to have then the scalability again for all the different form factors. Building platforms that can address this area. And Kira, this is what we tried to do in the early 2020s. Like in your human body, you have a blood circuit, your energy provision system. For a robot, this is your electron provisioning system, your power management. And you need to make sure that you never get a congestion, that always the electrons are supplied. And why do you need to make sure that this happens? Because otherwise you get a stroke or a heart attack or whatsoever. No. So for your robots, this green part, functional safe power management ICs, functional safe power supply and efficient power supply is the absolute foundation for that robot building, and we brought out a complete platform for functional safe power management ICs in the early 20s. Then you have your neural system, because otherwise you cannot talk to your fingers and your hands of your robot. And there is very simple neural information transportation systems, Ken and Lin, for example. There is, for industrial robots and for transportation robots, more and more Ethernet-based systems, time-sensitive networking, so real-time networking systems coming over all different data rates, from 10 megabit per second to 10 gigabit per second. We needed data switches, we needed physical layers, but a bunch of Lego blocks also there, a bunch of components to build these robots. Well, and then, of course, the heavy lifting came. We introduced in our company in the early 2020s, so precisely 2024, a platform that we call the CoreRide platform. So a family of similar products, from small microcontrollers with embedded memory in those days 40 nanometer technology, to 5 nanometer microprocessor units, customizable IP, really heavy duty, but all highly functional, safe electronics that can do the task of this surprise-free, real-time execution of big amounts of data. And as they came all from the same family offspring, we could start to leverage one software platform, so one way of programming this hardware. And just to make it very clear, what is a robot? A robot is a machine, just a piece of hardware, but it is a piece of customizable hardware. And how do you customize your hardware? You program it. I mean, this is the reason for existence for software in this entire machinery discussion. So a software-defined robot is software-defined because it has to be flexible. So in other words, if you have these building blocks, Kira, you can start mapping it back onto the brain. And now you say, okay, there is the network information dispatching layer, there is the orange, the green part, and grandpa for the blue part, we need AI accelerators. Yes, Kira, and there had been already in the early 2020s, somewhere between 50 and 200 companies out there that did AI accelerators that we could use. And Kira, in 2023, I saw the first time that customers were taking these architectures and were bringing them into the market. For example, a Chinese company, Leap Motor. You see it exactly, the orange and green part on one PCB in the bottom part, the blue part on an AI-enabled chip in the upper part. We started experimenting already in 2019 with guys like Continental on what we called a blue box. You see this reference kit from NXP there. The S32G, so a big gateway, functional safe gateway, as the green part of the brain. 4 PCI Express slots for AI accelerators that can land on the unit. And bring your own AI accelerator, plug it in, and you can expand your brain as much as you want into the bluish part. And then, also in 2024, what we saw is companies from Australia for the first time getting safety certifications on these type of architectures. So Applied EV is a design company. They are building these rolling skateboards, functional safety certified on exactly that type of architecture, functional safe, green part and orange part of the brain, and then enhance in a less functional safe setup the AI accelerators on top. And this is not the only 3 that we saw there, but it was taken over very, very quickly by a lot of the customers in the market. It was just the zeitgeist of that time. It was the most logical thing to do, Kira. And Kira says, wow, great, Grandpa, thanks. So that at least explains a certain part of that delay. And with that brain re-engineering, you solved it all? No. Kira, to be very honest, we had even a bigger challenge in front of us. And that was the challenge that these robots were inferior to humans. For example, in 23, we had already self-driving cars, level 3 cars, so with a highway assistance system, out there on the roads in Germany. The Mercedes S-Class and the BMW 7 Series. The only issue was these cars could only drive up to 60 kilometers an hour on a highway. And no one, hardly anyone, would buy a system that can only drive 60 kilometers on a highway. I mean, then you go manual driving and you speed again. Especially, we didn't have speed limits by then on the German highways. Yeah? So Grandpa could go 250 kilometers an hour on that highway. Yeah? So that was true fun. 4 times the speed of these autonomous systems. So what was the reason? I mean, the brains were there, Grandpa, and what were the reasons why these cars couldn't drive faster? Well, Kira, the issue was these cars were more short-sighted than Grandpa himself. So these cars needed better eyes. These cars needed better sensors. Kira says, okay, I understand you, Grandpa. But what was your vision? How did you try to solve it? Well, Kira, I went back to my childhood dreams. And I was looking at my idols. And these idols were superheroes. And like the guys in Hogwarts, I was dreaming of having a magic wand, make one funny move, and a spell and objects could be influenced in my environment. Like the Jedis, I wanted to have telepathic capabilities. I wanted to know what goods are doing outside of my line of sight. Like Superman, I wanted to have X-ray vision, looking across a wall, looking into rain, fog, and snow, where my eyes could not help me anymore. I wanted to understand what is in front of me. And like Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide Through Galaxy wrote, Safford Beeblebrox was using a thing called bubblefish, and he could stick it into his ear, and then suddenly he could understand all languages of the universe that were spoken around him. With these 4 super senses, superpowers, my robots would be unbeatable. So we started working on that, Kira. For influencing the objects in your proximity, we used a thing that we called ultra-wideband. My car key moved into my watch. When I was approaching my car, the car opened up without me taking any action, but just by being there, by measuring where Lars is. And you have this today in your house. You move in, your light, your sound, your temperature is following you. All the door unlock and lock is done by your superpower, your magic wand at your wrist. Knowing what is happening 10 cars ahead of you in real time, we do by a V2X, car-to-car communication, cellular or DSRC based. That was a battle in the 2010 years. Yeah? But there was a lot of discussion. If this car 10 cars ahead of me is doing an emergency braking, I would know it in my car 2 milliseconds later, and I can react before I see the brake lights of the car in front of me. So that was really, really important for reaction, for safety, for arranging the world around me in a proper way. We were working on high-resolution radar. We tried to bend the rules of physics as much as possible there. If radar would be as good as laser scanners, we had laser scanners in the early 2020s. If radar would be as good as my eyes or as laser scanners, how cool would that be? Because radar is working in rain and fog. I have my X-ray vision. And we grouped together the big industry players of the 2020s, and we defined a standard, a common language, Matter, so that all smart connected devices have one way to talk to each other. Or in other words, what we did is, in physics, for this high-resolution radar, let me just give you 2 examples, Kira. We took 3 radar sensors, off-the-shelf radar sensors, and we synchronized them. And we synchronized them via Ethernet. And if you can make sure that these standard, cheap, off-the-shelf radar sensors are sending and receiving at the same phase, so coherently, then what I can build is out of 3 10 centimeters antennas, I can build a virtual 2-meter antenna. And in radar, antenna size is resolution. So for the first time with a partner company, NXP could show at CES 2024 that we can measure 2 of you walking in front of me over a distance of up to 250 meters. If I could manage obstacle detection over 250 meters, then I can afford driving speed of more than 130 kilometers an hour on a highway. So Kira, this is how we reached the inflection point of highway assistance systems with the right brains are in the cars, and now we all could buy them because it made sense for us. We had highway level 3 driving systems for 130 kilometers an hour on the highways, and that was the speed of these days. Second example, this meta standard that I was talking about. Kira, what we did there is we had connected homes in 2020. But my father and my mother, Kira, they stopped buying smart home equipment, connected home equipment, because they were afraid whatever they buy, they can throw away the year thereafter. They had sound boxes that did not talk to the energy management system. The energy management system did not understand the window blinders. The window blinders did not know where the electric vehicle is. So we had connected homes, but we did not have smart homes. And by this language unification, suddenly use cases came into play where the solar cells on grandpa's house were producing energy. And then your aunt, Leah, was switching on the hairdryer. And the energy management system in the house knew this is a hairdryer that needs 2,000 watts for 5 minutes. So switch off the fridge. The fridge is keeping the temperature for 8 hours. Switch off the washing machine for 5 minutes. Let the hairdryer run on the solar energy. And afterwards, you're going back to normal operations for all the other energy users. And of course, it was not only a language that we introduced, but it was also a passport that we introduced, because you didn't want to have crazy equipment in your house. The washing machine had to have a passport and had to say, hey, believe me, I'm the washing machine. The hairdryer had to say, and here's my passport, I'm the hairdryer. Yeah? And the solar cells or the energy management system had to say, and you know what, guys, I have authority above you all because I'm the energy management system. So these entire security certifications, passports, and common language, they helped us generate this ecosystem. And what we at NXP did for that in 2023, we brought the first Meta-certified controllers out there next to the i.MX microcontroller and microprocessor family that we are using in a lot of industrial devices and in a lot of display-centric devices. We had the first radios, because this Meta standard was living on Zigbee, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi transmission standards. So we did not invent new transmission standards, but the common language. We did not invent new phone lines, but we decided that we talk in one language, in English, over those phone lines, and we could understand each other. And this is how this Meta came into life. So Kira, what Grandpa did over the last 50 years, largely not over the last 10 years, because I was retired already, but in the 40 years before. Grandpa just worked on one simple task. Grandpa worked on converting machines into robots. And it took me and the industry 40 years. And this architectural transition was the first and most important part. So the way how machines were built had to be completely redone. We had to invent robot brains, trustworthy, safe, and real-time parts of brains. Then we had to give these robots superior senses. We had somehow to manage to build in trust. And we had to find the ability to scale that in an energy-efficient way, because also one of the problems in the early days were that all of these systems could easily consume thousands of watts. Highly inefficient. Think of it like there would be human beings out there with a 1 meter skull, and this brain would be so big and so energy hungry that our bodies cannot carry it. Evolution has done this optimization part for biology. And I think we have done a pretty decent job doing that parts for robots only in 50 years. But Kira, very honestly, there was only one thing, and that one thing that we could learn is we had to switch from one company does it all and stand alone, like in the machine building days, to we have to do it together. There is no such thing like one big chaebol is doing everything under one roof. It was an ecosystem play. It was a play where we needed the industry players, where we needed academia from research, and where we needed a lot of help from politicians, also globally. Because also one nation could not do it stand alone. This was like 100 years earlier flying to the moon. This is hardly payable by one nation. And that, Kira, was maybe the most important learning for me in the last 50 years, and it will be the most important learning for you going forward. What you can dream, you can build. If you can't dream it, don't even try it. And for all of you here in the audience, maybe I'm just a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And if you join me on that journey, our industry will be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today at Computex and NXP keynote. The next keynote will begin at 11 a.m. tomorrow.